And we are recording with Dr. Robert Malone on Sunday, September 3rd, 2023 at 2:11 p.m. Eastern Time. He is the inventor of the mRNA vaccine. You don't have to like it, but it is what it is. So just, all the people in the chat who are immediately going crazy, it just is what it is. He's also my CIA handler. Get over it. His book, Lies by Government, told me is in the description as well as his getter. His Substack, his Twitter, RW Malone. You can go to it. And as I was telling him just before this, I do have my first sponsor ever of this podcast, 1,337 episodes in, and it's called Toss Kit. It's about the size of an iPhone, and I'm just going to get right to it. It's for if you accidentally shit yourself. All right. It's got a fresh pair of boxers. It's got a wet wipe. It's got disinfectant gloves. And yeah, you can move on with your life. And my mom's a nurse. She's been a nurse for forever. And I remember I told her I was like 28, and I was like, I think I crapped myself in like at the gym the other day. I feel so embarrassed. She goes, well, number one, don't feel embarrassed. It does happen to adults. I go, okay. And she goes, but you should feel embarrassed because number two, no one talks about it. I go, oh, all right. So with that, guys, that's what my podcast is sponsored by. Let the jokes fly. Yeah, clean up your shit. I get it. It's a shit podcast. Tosskit.com. TOSSKIT. Dr. Malone did give me permission to do that. I told him before this. I was like, hey man, I got a weird request. Can I plug this? And because Dr. Malone's a badass, of course.
Yeah, they ought to give those things out on the long haul flights.
Yeah, that. Well, yeah, and we can tie in jokes. There's all sorts of jokes. Like, is your name Anthony Fauci? Right. Are you being grilled for gain of function research? Are you shitting yourself on Capitol Hill? Tosskit.com. Support my pod. They write themselves. But nobody's here for me. They're here for you, Dr. Malone. So on today, Sunday, September 3rd, the lockdowns 2.0 are coming. They're beating a dead horse. We have new neo-Nazi groups. Patriot Front is out. The new one's in. We have Pirola, whatever that is. And, of course, as we were talking, the Center for Countering Digital Hate, a CIA cutout, is trying to further restrict our speech. But with that, Dr. Malone, please take it away, sir.
Well, I think the real thing that you and everybody else is concerned about is what are the actual data regarding this Pirola variant that is being weaponized and used as the source for the fear porn that's being pushed out, of course, by corporate media, together with various agents of the U.S. government. And, fascinatingly now, Tony Fauci, who, as I just posted, was not an epidemiologist, but he played one on TV, is now pretending to also be a climate scientist and advising us on climate change. So, as I said the other day, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And I think that's fool me twice, shame on me is where we're at with the COVID crisis now and the Pirola variant and all the fear porn that's being circulated. Just to set kind of a pin in it, the World Health Organization, which has not been shy ever in promoting a message of fear around an infectious disease, because it's basically their business model, is not promoting fear at this time around this Pirola variant, because there's no evidence that they should. They can't. There's nothing right now in terms of significant caseload associated with this particular variant. In fact, now I'm going to reach over to the Substack that I cross-posted 2 days ago from my friend Dr. Byram Bridle, who's at the University of Guelph, but he's been basically unable to practice his craft at the university because he's been one of the leading outspoken scientists in Canada about the safety of the mRNA vaccines. He's, just to refresh everybody's memory, he's the guy who actually first found on a Japanese server Pfizer Common Technical Document that broke this whole thing open and showed the wide distribution of the injected particles, their distribution to ovaries, the various reproductive toxicity, the broad distribution of expression, all that happened just shortly before I went on the Dark Horse podcast with Steve Kirsch and Brett Weinstein and spoke truth, and that set this whole thing in motion, kind of. But Byram is a hardcore virologist, molecular virologist, and vaccinologist. He's the real deal. And he's been diving much deeper than I have into the sequence analysis and tracking these mutations. Tracking the mutations is a specialized area, and you really have to know what you're doing. I know enough to dabble. I don't know enough to pretend that I'm an expert, but Byram is. So you can find his Substack cross posted on my Substack, which is rwmalonemd@substack.com. And the title of his essay is The Pirola Variant of SARS-CoV-2, very straightforward. And he points out that the World Health Organization is tracking this, but is not raising any alert flags about its potential risks. What world of viral is that this particular variant has a very dense collection of mutations in the spike protein sequence. Okay, so what does that mean? What it really boils down to is one of the things that people are particularly concerned about is this appears to be an example of a virus strain that has been selected by the leaky vaccines. Remember, we've talked about this before, Tommy, that with a leaky vaccine deployed into the teeth of an outbreak like this, what you'll do, because viruses generate so many mutants, is you'll select for the mutants that are able to escape the vaccine, the immune response produced by the vaccine. This is just genetics. You can take upper division undergraduate genetics, and you should be able to understand this. This is fundamental evolution. And so that's what we've done is the world has deployed very leaky vaccines to billions of people. And just as predicted with this Pirola variant, we are seeing the evidence of selection of a new variant strain that has acquired a large number of mutants that make it less susceptible to the antibodies generated by the vaccines. Oh, okay. So that's interesting. Does it cause worse disease? Well, actually, there's no evidence of that. And as of a few days ago, all the cases that were reported were not being reported because of clinical symptoms. They were being reported as cases of infection with this sequence, with this variant, okay? So they were cases of Pirola, not cases of COVID. And they're very limited. They are widely distributed globally, but there's no evidence right now that this is a more adapted variant in the sense that it will displace Omicron or the other currently circulating variants. It doesn't seem to be more infectious, and it definitely doesn't seem to be more pathogenic. So why all the hype? And this gets to the core issue with all of this fear porn, whether it's about climate change or petrochemicals or petroleum reserves or energy or the green agenda, or I mean, we can go on and on and on. All of these things that we keep getting bombarded with are functionally potential extinction events. They're weaponizing fear around things that are associated with potential massive human population loss or extinction. That's what they're doing when they talk about, for instance, the food crisis. Again and again and again, we are bombarded with these messages that are potential existential crises. Existential meaning having to do with survival and death, the crisis of potential massive death or your personal death. That's what's being weaponized. But there's absolutely no evidence that the Pirola variant represents that type of risk. And we now know, for instance, that even the original highly pathogenic Wuhan strain or the subsequent Delta strain were not associated with massive death. They weren't even associated with 3.5% case fatality rate, which is what the press weaponized against us originally. And Tommy, you've probably seen that little clip that focuses on the original statements by Mr. Trump early in the outbreak, in which he said that the people he was talking to all indicated that the actual case fatality rate, I don't think those are his words, and he said mortality or death, was well less than 1%. And they turned on the comedians, Colbert, the corporate media just attacked him again and again and again for not knowing what he was talking about, that the mortality rate was more like 3.5%, that we had functionally an existential crisis. We're all going to die. Remember, we're all going to be dying on the streets. We're going to have freezer vans full of bodies because the hospitals can't handle that. It just went on and on and on. And it turns out, I'm just going to say it, that was all bullshit. And Trump got it right. It's kind of an amazing thing to say, flip-flopped under the pressure of Fauci and Birx and that whole machine. But early on, he got it right, and he was ridiculed for it. And that's probably part of why he became kind of goosey as time went on and agreed to these various things, is because he got slammed so hard for speaking what has turned out to be truth. So once again, it was not true with the original SARS-CoV-2 isolates. It wasn't true with even the most highly lethal variants like Delta. It's absolutely not true with Pirola. This is not a major existential crisis that's going to kill you. You are at risk if you're morbidly obese, if you have diabetes, if you're already on death's door for some other reason. This could be the thing that tips you over the edge because you're already on death's door, like being super aged or having other comorbidities, cystic fibrosis if you're a child. But if you're a person that's in otherwise good health and has been taking care of yourself, this truly is going to be like a bad cold. So again, when you see these discordances where the press is telling you this fear story and the government is telling you this fear story, but the data don't support it, okay? And in this case, not even the WHO is pushing the fear porn, okay? And it doesn't support it, then you got to say, this smells like there's a hidden agenda. And, the cynics among us might point out that we do have a primary election coming up. And it's been very effective in the last presidential election to weaponize the infectious disease outbreak to support mail-in ballots and enable ballot harvesting and a lot of other things that were regrettable and not consistent with a accurate vote count. I'll just leave it at that. So is Pirola a death knell? Is that something that we should all get worried about? The answer is no. And if you want the nitty-gritty details of the mutations and where they are and what this all means and what the time course has been and what the actual data are to date about the number of cases that have been reported, none of which have been reported as associated with clinical COVID, then I suggest you take a peek at Dr. Byron Bridle's Substack that I've cross-posted. Think about following him. He's a good guy, and he has just been hammered. As many of you know, Canada has just become a client state of the World Economic Forum, and under Trudeau, it's all full-on totalitarian government now. And Byron has been taking it pretty hard. So But that doesn't mean he's not an absolute solid molecular virologist and vaccinologist. He knows what he's talking about, and he's called it right against Pirola in this case also. So until we see things like hospitals filling up with cases of COVID, they're talking about, oh, there's been this huge increase in COVID. Well, if what's happened is that clinical COVID has dropped down to far below the number of deaths associated with fentanyl. It's really not much of a clinical problem now. It's not filling up the hospitals, et cetera. There are some different symptoms that are being reported in some cases in what's circulating currently, but it's not a major crisis in any sort of way. And the thing to track is stuff like hospital bed capacity and emergency room utilization and intensive care unit capacity or residual capacity. And there's no evidence that we're seeing any stress on the hospital system right now. So until further notice, chalk this up as more fear porn that is being used to get clicks and likes and follows and advertisements from Pfizer. Now, the other angle on this is that Moderna and Pfizer have developed yet another booster vaccine.
Thank God.
Designed against this new variant. And so I'm sure it's a surprising coincidence that has no particular meaning at all, that at the same time they're announcing that they are now testing these in animal models, we have this sudden surge of fear porn being weaponized. And oh, by the way, by the time they get these things deployed, we're going to have another variant because you can't get ahead of a coronavirus like this. The other thing, Tommy, just to say that's illustrated by this case and this new variant is that compared to other coronaviruses like the beta coronaviruses, the common cold, SARS-CoV-2 seems to be mutating faster. The emergence of significantly different variants is coming much faster than we normally see with circulating coronaviruses. Why could that be? Well, probably the easiest explanation, we call it Occam's razor, the simplest explanation is likely to be the correct one. The simplest explanation is because we have administered billions of doses of crappy vaccine that doesn't protect against infection and selects for vaccine-resistant mutants. And so we're putting this selective pressure as opposed to those that have natural immunity, which have a much more broadly based immune response that is less likely to be circumvented by mutations in the spike protein. And so as a consequence, it appears that what we're doing with this stupid boost strategy is we're driving the evolution of the virus to be more resistant. And the other thing that's happening with the boost strategy, in case there's anybody here that's contemplating getting another booster, is that there are clear data, and recently just another paper coming out from Australia in children that have received 2 doses. Okay, so only 2 doses, children, Australia, and they're showing through sophisticated immunologic techniques that children actually have a reduced ability to respond to many common pathogens. Oops. So not only is the boosting strategy causing a narrow, focused immunodeficit because of things called immune imprinting and original antigenic sin, a focused narrow deficit in the ability of the highly boosted to protect themselves against SARS-CoV-2 variants, but it's also causing a broader based general failure of immune response that is compromising people's ability to fight off other pathogens and potentially also cancer. So as my friend Ryan Cole likes to say, if you've had 1, don't take 2. If you've had 2, don't take 3. If you've had 3, don't take 4. If you've had 7, well, maybe you ought to take another one.
Yeah.
Because I just don't want there. But you're probably not somebody that I can convince of whether or not to eat blue cheese.
Yeah.
So we'll leave it at that.
I was gonna say, regarding all of this, is who is it that you quote in your book, where it's you read the newspaper and on the front page or something you see a topic that you're well versed in, like for me, I see an article on podcasting, and you read through it and you go, that's total bullshit, and then you turn the page and they say something about COVID or climate change, and you go, fear porn must be real. No part of your brain goes, well, if they're lying about that one thing that you know very well, couldn't they be lying about other things? What are
Yeah,
we
that was
not
the
quite
author of the
interested
Andromeda strain, who
Okay.
actually was trained at the Salk Institute. I'm blanking on his name, but it's one of his core theorems,
Okay.
just as you accurately described. And I'm sorry, I'm having a brain freeze about his name. It'll come to me probably right after the podcast is done.
You said the guy that wrote Andromeda Strain?
Correct. Yeah.
I haven't read that, but I know it's Michael Crichton.
Yeah, Crichton. That's
I
right.
recognize the name. I haven't read it, but
Michael Crichton's thesis is what you just described.
okay. Yeah, we don't see that or are we seeing that? Is that why people aren't really digging into this more, where they're looking at it and they're going, yeah, no, we're what doing lockdowns? It's like people saying that they're like, listen, if you got scared by the first pandemic and you wore a mask, like, sure, you know what, we're all human. But if you fall for this one, man, you're there's no saving you. Do you
Well,
think
that's
that's it too?
as I said, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me
Yeah.
twice, shame on me.
Yeah. It seems to the biggest red flag for me is you're saying that the WHO and the World Economic Forum, they're not even, I didn't know that. I thought they're the ones pushing this. They're not getting
Well, I don't
behind
know
it.
about the WEF. I don't know about the WEF, but the WHO is tracking this. It is not raising alarm bells. And we've all seen that they have a pretty short tripwire to
Yeah.
alarmed about things. This is not rising to the level of the hype that is being pushed right now. And so it's yet another very clear-cut example of corporate media spreading fear porn. And once again, it's coincident with one of their major sponsors, Pfizer, and its commercial interest. Pfizer and Moderna stocks have been kind of drifting down in a significant way. And so what was fascinating is this whole round of fear was kicked off by Mr. Scott Gottlieb, Dr. Scott Gottlieb, putting out, going on various corporate media broadcasts and talking about how he's concerned about this new variant. And of course, they always just cite in the Chiron, Scott Gottlieb, former FDA commissioner, and they forget to mention Scott Gottlieb, current board of directors member of Pfizer. And they forget to mention Scott Gottlieb, who has close advisory ties to the CIA. Okay, so let's just put all this in perspective and follow, this is another follow the money situation. Who's going to win here? And then, as if this isn't enough, we've got this little clip of Mr. Biden muttering. It's amazing that he's even able to get a sentence out of his mouth these days, but muttering about how he's going to ask Congress for more money. I think it's $500 million or something like that, for building a new coronavirus vaccine. Off to the rescue. That's followed shortly thereafter by his saying that mRNA technology is going to cure cancer. How much do they kick into his reelection fund? I got to wonder.
Yeah.
Or one of his super PACs. But we're gonna. And this was the tell. He said, and this vaccine that we're going to make with this 1.2 billion is going to work. They're behind.
I didn't hear that.
He knows. Yeah, no, he says it.
Oh,
this one's going to work, which implies that the other ones, he knows that the other ones didn't.
Yeah.
So it's just more DC kabuki and corruption. That's all the indicators point to that. And another one of my favorite themes, I'm working on this chapter right now. We're putting together as the next book, all of the writings that we've done having to do with fifth generation warfare, propaganda, and psyops. And I have to write the introductory chapter. I'm in the middle of it right now. I'm calling it "To Resuscitate a Mockingbird." Obviously, a play on the Mockingbird program that was killed, right, by the Church Committee and by Carl Bernstein's reporting on Operation Mockingbird, and the huge number of reporters in the virtual complete capture of the New York Times that occurred under that program by the CIA.
Killed.
Yeah. And well, it was absolutely reactivated, or I'm calling it resuscitated, by Mr. Obama as he left office. The story, if you trace it, is that during the remember how during Obama's presidency we had Daesh or ISIS, right? And they were the big boogeyman. He'd killed off bin Laden. Yay, hooray! And ISIS became the new boogeyman, and they created a new operation to use, because ISIS was killing the West in its propaganda, in its deployment of social media based communication. And so they built a whole new division designed to counter that. And then at the terminal stage of the Obama presidency, and I have to think that Obama's radicalization on all of this was influenced by, number one, the swift boating of John Kerry. I think this is it's like ping pong. You do this, and then I do that, and then you do this, and then I do that, and it's a rush to the least common denominator. It's a rush to the bottom. There was the swift boating of Kerry, and there was the whole brouhaha around the birth certificate for Obama. And whatever you think about Obama, if you could just extend just a tiny bit of empathy, the guy really took it hard. I mean, he was just getting hammered about that birth certificate. Whatever the truth was there, they were just on him like flies. And then he comes out of this. He sees what's happened in Trump's first election, where Trump's team, whipped the Democrats like crazy on social media. Tiny budget compared to what they spent, and he just beat Hillary like a drum. And not that she was such a great candidate, but then as he's heading out of office, Obama puts a bill in place that takes this organization that they had built for Daesh and turns it against the domestic citizenry around this logic that we have Russian incursion into our elections. They did things like defined election integrity as basically a national security issue. And that allowed the national security state to stick itself into everything having to do with American elections. All of this happened at the end of Obama's term, and for some unknown reason, Trump's guys didn't kill it. They let it fester. And then it was there, and it had grown. And then when Mr. Biden got in, he just threw, gasoline on that particular smoldering fire, and here we are. That's the true trend of events here. And the other one that I'm focused on more and more is with essays from people like Doug Casey, his international man, is, and of course the European travel and talking to Italians, I'm just back from Italy, is with the rise of the expanded BRICS consortium, I think we are seeing the beginning of the end of Pax Americana and the American imperial state. I think we are seeing the winding down of the post-World War II America and all of the structures around it. In part, here's the kicker. the history of warfare, I'm sure you're more up on this than I am, Tommy, because you love this stuff of history of war. Um, Usually in warfare, you can predict who's going to lose by the first one to go broke, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, the Battle of the Roses
Mm-hmm.
is what killed the old economic order um, because the big Italian banks that were backing that war got on the wrong side, losing side, and then they were bankrupt. Then we have, then the banks learned, and now what they do is they back both sides.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a win-win for them. But we're pretty much bankrupt.
Yeah.
The United States has, had to borrow and borrow and borrow, and now it's snowballing. And at some point, the chickens are going to come home to roost, and we're going to have there. We are facing the risk. We're facing talk about extinction horizons and existential crises. We're facing the risk that we're so financially overextended that we're going to have some sort of a catastrophic failure in our internal financial system and the liquidity of the federal government that will have a financial cascade like nothing we've ever seen. And we are at risk for a collapse akin to that which happened to the former Soviet Union 2 years after they lost their engagement in Afghanistan.
Mm.
We've lost a series of wars. We have, face it. We've lost a series of wars. I argue that we haven't really won a war since World War II. We lost the Korean War, we lost the Vietnam War, we've lost all these little skirmishes or boutique wars, they call them now, that sustain the military-industrial complex because taken seriously, just in sell missiles and radar and airplanes and stuff. And now we're propagandized up one side and down the other about Ukraine, but the Europeans are all pretty much on the same page. The Russians are thumping the Ukrainians right now. Mm-hmm. And we're all being told that it's all hunky-dory and we just, we need to send, it's not good money after bad. It's, essential for the preservation of democracy or whatever the hell the justification is.
It's my worry is that I agree with everything you're saying. I don't see the military intelligence structure in this country going down without, they're going to go down in a blaze of glory. And I think that's what we're seeing. When
I think that's what's driving this amped up propaganda, fifth generation warfare psyops initiative is it's like the last dying screams.
Yeah.
They're going to do everything they can to try to cover up what they've done and their mismanagement and malfeasance. Just like they're trying to cover up the COVID crisis mismanagement, they're doing it in every dimension.
Doesn't G. Edward Griffin talk about that in Creature from Jekyll Island? I think at the end, he gives he's like a prediction for the future, and it's eerie, man. It is eerie how accurate it is. But I think he talks about a major war in which the U.S. we wipe out like our competitors. So I don't know, we like kill off China, and then we go, well, listen, that was such a devastating war, and they owned all of our debts. What we're gonna do? He calls it the banker. That's the new currency, BANKOR. Instead of a U.S. dollar, it's called the banker note, and that's the new thing. And he talks about how it's going to be digitally based. And he wrote this in like the 90s. And like they'll be able to turn you off if there's any sort of insurrection or resistance. They'll be able to turn it off. You won't be able to use it at certain places. But the primary thing is that we will have an insanely huge war in which we will wipe out all U.S. It will just start over. I think that's what they're gonna. I don't think it's when I say this, people are like, that sounds evil. I'm not. I know it's hard to say this with an American flag behind me, but I'm not supporting this. It's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, I think it is one scenario, and there's a lot of variance around that scenario. That war does not have to be kinetic.
No.
It can be economic. And I think our opponents perceive that risk, and it is driving them to coalesce in part into this new BRICS currency. And we've had many of the major leaders in the Middle East sign off on this, which means basically the petrodollar is done. It's just a question of what the timeline is. And and where do you find refuge? There's kind of two options. And tell me if you know another one. One is these various forms of decentralized digital currency, and we could name names, Bitcoin being one of them, but it's just one example. And there's precious metals, and it's kind of like nothing else. Everything else is fiat currency.
Yeah.
There's this interesting initiative in the state of Texas. I don't know how it's going, where the Texas state's legislature would endorse a gold-backed banking system that would exist in Texas that you could then deposit into, and your deposits would be backed by gold. And that's the kind of thing that rich people play with, to shelter their large assets. But it's not going to help a housewife, buy groceries right now. So most of us that are just middle-class folks don't have many options. And if they pull this little trick on us of central bank digital currency that they're already pioneering, we're already seeing weaponization of banking. And this is another one of those things that pisses the hell out of me. How do we get to a position where the bankers tank our economy in the Great Recession? We all bail them out under Mr. Obama, who was raised by a banker, his grandma, whose mom was USAID, bloody CIA in the State Department. And he bails out the banks, and the rest of us get to take it in the shorts, talking about your sponsor. And now the banks are in a dominant position, the banks and these very, very large capital funds, to dictate the terms and conditions, and they're setting themselves up as the new masters of the universe after horribly screwing up the economy. Somehow they feel that it's their right to rule the world. I just don't get it.
It's who has guns, who has the biggest guns. That's what it is. I mean, it's the same lack of logic. Like, if you and I look at it as rational humans, continuity of government, it's almost comical. It's almost funny if it wasn't so dark. The only people that will survive a nuclear war are also the only people that can initiate a nuclear war. The people that survive are exclusively the people that caused it. That kind of applies to everything. There is no justice. There's no moral or ethical balancing of nothing. It just is what it is. And
I call it the golden rule, right?
Yeah.
I read somebody who'd never heard this before. What's the golden rule now? The golden rule is those with the gold make the rules.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's exactly what it is. And I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna conveniently start talking about the human rights atrocities of China and the Uyghurs and things like Foxconn, and we're gonna try to make the alternative to the U.S. look so bad.
Don't forget the Falun Gong.
Yeah, everything. We'll whip out all this stuff that we've never touched before, and all these things that we've I mean, it's the same irony of, for 4 years, Donald Trump's a Nazi, Donald Trump's a Nazi, Donald Trump's a Nazi, then give weapons to people with literal swastikas and say this is for democracy. And you go, do you not even pause for a moment and look at that? But people don't. And I think they know that. So they go, hey, we're just going to flip a switch and just point out all the atrocities China's doing.
Well, this is the beauty of reactivating Mockingbird.
Yeah.
is for the majority of people, their version of reality is what they see on CNN and read in the New York Times and the Washington Post.
Hmm.
Epic Times is now the fourth largest published newspaper in the United States. Yay. But still, for most people, their reality is what the government pushes into their brains.
And there is a third option, and I've talked about it before, is you got to go back to like 1600s England. And, for all of its drawbacks, primarily being 1600s England, it was still the pinnacle of human civilization, all things considered. Cobblestone streets, stained glass windows, writing and church and
Dominant navy.
Yeah. For all intents and purposes, it was the apex of human civilization. It was as good as it got, right?
Or the apex predator of human civilization.
And, one of the same. You always have to ask yourself what caused people to get in boats and go across an ocean that they might not survive. And if they do survive, they're getting to an undeveloped territory that at best is a lot of work to settle. And at worst, you're going to be eaten alive by savages.
Or you're an indentured servant, which is essentially being a slave.
Yeah.
And you're willing to do that to escape the British Empire or the central concentrated power of the British Empire, because the colonies were still under the British Empire or French or Spanish, depending on where you were. But you were still subject to colonialism. And right, so it's personal and religious liberty. It's the, we selected for at the founding, we selected for that subset of people that care so much about freedom that they're willing to risk their life. No wonder they ended up being the revolutionaries that threw off the yoke.
Yeah. So you have to ask, what would be the equivalent in 300 years when someone looks back and they go, for all of its drawbacks, why would you leave 2023 America? You can Uber Eat, right? You can internet all day. You can sit on your phone. You don't have to do anything. You're not going to be drafted. You get in a car, and they didn't have self-driving cars back then, or they were just starting. But for the most part, it was pretty. You could do anything. Why would people get in metal spaceships, go 9 months to Mars? No guarantee they're going to survive. And then when they get there, best case scenario, you've just got a lot of work ahead of you. What would drive someone to do that? Well, there would be people that truly value freedom above all else. To be like, I don't care if I die. I don't want to be told what to do. I don't want to have to take the booster. I'm not going to say it's stunning and brave for a man with makeup to twerk in front of a child. Yeah, I'll get on the rocket ship and I'll go to Mars.
Sounds like you're angling for another sponsor, Mr. Musk.
Mr. Musk, well, I would take that. But you have to ask yourself, what would drive people to that?
Yeah.
That's the equivalent. They're going to go central bank digital currency or gold. I don't see a third option. Someone's going, I see a third option. Screw it.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're going to see.
Oh boy. I'm going to be dead on by then.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to do it. I don't want to do it, but I'll cheer on everyone else.
You want to close this out by letting me rant about something else?
Go for it. Yeah, take it.
Okay, so as we discussed and you mentioned in the lead-in, the latest thing that's got me all prickly is this concerted effort to equate MAGA and conservatives and quote anti-vaxxers with anti-Semitism. And this is the strategy that has been deployed in the vaccine community, trying to link anti-vaxxers to anti-Semites. And now it's broadened out with the Center for Countering Digital Hate, which did this hit piece in which they took a small number of rather obscure, they had a couple hundred followers or whatever of people that were posting anti-Semitic crap on Twitter, listed those then listed a bunch of folks like myself that have very large accounts and followings. Not to brag, but it's over 1.1 now. And yeah, I know it's cool.
I'm at
Thank you.
2,000.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm next. I'm
No,
coming.
that's
I'm coming for you. I'm at 2,000.
okay. Yeah, thanks, Joe Rogan, right?
Yeah, I know.
So listed people with larger accounts that have posted stuff against the government, and then bundled us all up in a piece attacking Twitter and saying that Twitter was making profit by running ads concurrently with these anti-vaxxers and anti-Semites, and they tried to position as if I'm an anti-Semite, and advocated that there should then be a economic blockade against Twitter, which is what prompted Mr. Musk to file a lawsuit against the Center for Countering Digital Hate. And as we mentioned earlier, CCDH is absolutely a CIA cutout. It's an AstroTurf organization. Started off as a one-man band with CIA ties back in London. Still not clear if they've actually really opened an office in the United States or if it's just a mailing box, post office box. But it doesn't matter. They're the ones that came out with the essay about the disinformation dozen, including Mercola and Kennedy, that Biden then cited, which is what put Center for Countering Digital Hate on the map. And now we have the Anti-Defamation League playing similar games. And here's my rant. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Don't post anti-Semitic crap on social media. If you're an anti-Semite, that's your business. Just like what you do in the bedroom is your business. And I'm not saying that you should be censored. It's not about censorship. This is about fifth generation warfare and being smart or being stupid. Okay. If you post that kind of crap on social media, this, I'm a Nazi and kill all the kikes and all that crap that some people are pushing, particularly on Gab. What you're doing is you're playing right into the hands of our opponents. You're giving them ammunition to shoot us with. Okay. Whatever your particular personal bias is, don't do it, because that just boomerangs right around and they weaponize it. And they're, people like James Lindsay are posting now, get ready, because they're going to be coming after us on anti-Semitism. And the conservative side has some weaknesses there, and they're going to weaponize it against us. Why are they going to do it now? Because there's an election coming, stupid. Okay, this is not about me or you or Tommy or anybody else. This is about winning an election. Mm-hmm. And what they did in the midterms is they successfully drove the persuadable middle by scaring the pants off them with that speech in Philly, in which they talked about MAGA as the great evil. They're going to do that same ploy. Why? Because it works. Okay, it works, and it's not that it's going to work necessarily against the 25% or 30 or 40% or whomever it is that are on the conservative side. They're going to do it because they can weaponize those hot button terms like anti-Semitism and racism against us and persuade the persuadable middle that we're all crazy haters. Okay. And when you post that stuff, you give them ammunition to shoot us with, and they are going to shoot us. Okay. They're going to do everything they can. And my advice, if you want to help our side, is take a moment, if you're active on social media, and push a disclaimer out in which you explicitly say, I do not endorse this stuff. And I will delete and block people that post it on my threads. And whatever your feelings are, okay, that's your business. But if you do that, then you make it really hard for Anti-Defamation League and CCDH to weaponize this stuff against us. Okay, this is fifth generation warfare, folks. This is war. It's unrestricted warfare. We are all combatants in fifth gen warfare, and there are no rules of engagement. It's anything is fair. Okay, and it's all based on the utilitarian concept that the ends justify the means. And our opponents will do anything. They will weaponize anything they can. They will say anything they can. It doesn't have to be true. It only has to be effective.
Mm.
So don't do it. And the other thing about this is a lot of these that are over the top, wearing stormtrooper helmets in their personal image with Pepe the Frog and SS on the side, and hate the kikes and all this ugly, ugly, ugly crap that's over the top that no normal person would post. Okay, those are probably false flag operations.
Those are feds.
The people that are doing that are trying to provoke you into a misstep of liking something or reposting something, and then they've got you. Okay, then you can be labeled as one of them, and they're false flags. Don't do it. Okay, so there's my rant. The other thing along these same lines is there are a bunch of people that post crazy stuff. Latest one that's circulating is a retread of Karen Kingston's and Stu, whatever his name is, Peter's stuff about the vaccines are actually AI programmed nanopods that are going to rejigger your brain to I'm not sure what. Okay, that's BS.
Yeah.
Okay, but when people put that stuff out, or we're all going to be dead in 2 years. Anybody that takes a vaccine is going to be dead in 2 years, or another variant is the next variant is going to kill us all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and there's various versions of these extreme positions, and what they do is they delegitimize the stuff that's really valid. I'm not going to name a name, but there's a high-profile person who's a cardiologist who's cut a video in which they say, oh, there's a cancer-causing virus in the vaccines. Okay. Well, the problem is this person doesn't know anything about virology or molecular biology. And what they're saying, what they're not saying, is that, in fact, it's been demonstrated that there are simian virus 40 sequences in the DNA that's used to manufacture the RNA for the boosters. That's true. And SV40 as a live virus did contaminate some of the early polio vaccines and get spread all over the human population, and that may have had something to do with the rise of cancer in the 60s. Okay, that's all true.
Mm-hmm.
But in these, contaminating these vaccines is residual DNA, which paradoxically has SV40 promoter enhancer sequences, but not the live virus. Okay, it's bad enough. Okay, to tell the truth is bad enough. But to amplify it and go out there into, the planet Uranus and talk about stuff that isn't true, well, what that does is it teaches the persuadable middle that we're all crazy.
Mm-hmm.
We're all lunatics. Okay, don't do it. Don't repost and like and fall victim to the fear porn coming from our side. Okay, it's not responsible, which is why I say, I held off saying anything about depopulation until I had the receipts, until I had the Kissinger report, until I had those documents, okay? And then I posted it, okay? And I talked about it then because I had the documents. Was I suspicious that there was an agenda having to do with population control in the United States government? Absolutely. But I didn't talk about it because I didn't have the documentation to support it. There's enough bad stuff going out there, that the DNA contamination with SV40 sequences is absolutely adulteration. In a normal world, it would be justification for pulling these products immediately and fining the manufacturers like Pfizer. Okay, that's a problem of the regulatory capture that's occurred and the corruption in our FDA and CDC. But that's bad enough. Yeah. Okay, we don't have to make up crazy stuff. There's plenty of bad stuff. Let's stick to the facts that we can prove, rather than speculating about stuff that some former scientist from some pharmaceutical company may be speculating about, but doesn't have the documents. Okay.
No. It's we'll wrap it up with another piece of wisdom from my favorite comedian, Tim Dillon. He goes, "Look at David Icke. everything he says up until the lizards is true. There is a consolidation of power in banks and military elite circles. They are doing crazy things. They practice the occult. They are often pedophiles. Bohemian Grove, Epstein Island. It's all there. They manufacture wars. They're willing to do false flags, but they're not lizards. Just
Or if
walk
they
up to
are,
that.
they are. We don't have the documentation.
Regardless, he goes, and if they were, he goes, it doesn't matter whether they are or are not, intergalactic praying mantises. He goes, if they're fucking kids, that's evil.
Yeah,
Don't
that's enough.
don't argue about that last 1 yard. He
Yeah.
goes, it's all evil. Bloodlines, money, fiat currency is a method of control. It's all there. They all worship, they all do occult stuff. What does it matter? And he goes, and that's the poison part. That's the poison part. Don't take that because that keeps us fighting. And it is true, right? That is the final thing.
Actively used to divide us.
Yeah.
It's weaponized. It's weaponized to delegitimize us.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I keep saying, guys and gals, get a clue. Understand what fifth generation warfare is about. There's no distinction between civilians and combatants. If you engage in social media, you are engaging in a fifth generation warfare battle space. If you read the bloody news or watch CNN, you are absorbing fifth generation warfare propaganda. Okay. You are surrounded by it. And don't be naive. Oh, it's a First Amendment right for me to say whatever crazy shit I want. Well, the question is, how does that advance our cause? How does that help us to win?
Yeah.
How is that tactically smart? How is that strategically adaptive to talk in the face of our enemy? You're giving them ammunition for their guns. Don't do it.
And that's what it is don't feed into the outrage. Do what you're gonna do. I would imagine you're gonna go back out and do more yard work. Truly go touch grass. Go feel the sun. Unplug. Don't watch this podcast. Unplug from this digital hell. Go out on God's green earth and just try to embody that. Listen to the birds. Watch the sun hit the clouds.
Go to church.
Go to church. Go
find a community and embrace it. Go help young people thrive.
Yeah.
There's so many positive things to do.
There really are.
Don't sit around on social media repeating ugly stuff that just plays into the narrative that all conservatives are batshit crazy.
It's designed to make you go insane. Don't give in. Get off the ride. Go. I mean, truly, there's so much beauty in this world. If you sit on Twitter for 19 hours a day, your brain is going to melt out of your ears. Don't do it. Unless that's your fetish, in which case go for it. I don't know. But, just don't. With that ending, Dr. Malone, let's wrap this one up. Thank you so much for your time. As always, guys, please go into the description. Please go grab the book. Please go follow him on Twitter. He won't notice. He's at 1.1 million followers. He won't notice anymore. But if he goes to 1.2, I will take credit for it. And please go to his Substack.
The thing about that head count, is that it transmits directly into a form of power. I'm sorry to say it that way.
Oh no, absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. That is the currency. That is absolutely. It is the new oil. That is currency, not petrodollar. It's like the clout.
And I'm trying so hard to use it for good.
Yeah.
So help me do good. I'm trying to be honest and straightforward with all of you and tell you stuff that I think is true to the best of my understanding when I have the receipts to say it. As opposed to just speculating. I could talk about all kinds of stuff. I mean, we posted some stuff about UAPs. But you'll notice that even in those posts that are coming through my Substack, we're talking about this is what was testified to. This is what is being done in terms of the propaganda and the censorship, etc. And until I see, physical remains of non-human origin or non-earthly origin, or certainly not in this century earthly origin, because that's one of the theories. I'm not going to be going out and saying, "Hey, there's aliens and they're actually lizard people and they're controlling our government."
Yeah. Regardless of if they're lizard people or not, what they're doing is evil. Don't get lost. Don't worry about whether or not they are lizards or what the shape of their epiglottis is. If they're taking your money and starting wars, that's just bad. I don't care if it's Santa Claus. It's just bad. Don't fall for it. Yeah. Go touch grass. Go follow Dr. Malone. Dr. Malone, let's wrap this up. Thank you, sir. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Till next time, Dr. Malone. Thank you so much for your time. And guys, thank you for watching.
And everybody think about getting one of those kits.
Listen, it's a tough time out there. There might be some mind-blowing information. If you see a UAP and a lizard gets off of it, you might shit your pants.
You might need one of those kits.
I recommend getting a toss kit. You might shit your pants. You see a UFO land on your front lawn and they get out and they go, I am a praying mantis. You're going to soil yourself. That's fine. Keep your game face on. Go get a toss kit, change your boxers, and then come back out and bare knuckle box that praying mantis. Don't be a pussy. All right. Dr. Malone, thank you so much. Guys, thank you for watching.